Good morning. It's another one of our first fives. We've been talking this week about solitude, about choosing to be alone. And we know that it's not everyone's favorite practice. If you caught Pastor Holly's yesterday, you know it's not her favorite practice either. But here's the truth in this. We find these moments of solitude and ultimately these moments of silence. They bring us to a place in which we find ourselves drawn to new things and things we never maybe thought we would do before. It opens up our eyes and our minds to something different than what we perceived. So I love these words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 to 38. Here's what Jesus says. It says, "Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.'" Now this last verse right there where Jesus spoke, it says the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. As they're walking, Jesus had compassion. What we find all throughout the scriptures is Jesus is filled with compassion. God is the God of compassion. We sometimes picture him differently than that, but God is again and again the God of compassion. And what we see in Jesus is this invitation to be his laborers, to go out into the world around us and connect with people who find themselves far from God and offer hope and grace and love. I'm finding myself these days reminded that in our solitude, the reason we spend time in solitude is ultimately to connect with God, but then to recognize God doesn't call us to a life of solitude by ourselves. That is not the call. The call is for those moments of solitude to then lead us to the place where we too have compassion. We too go out into the harvest fields. We too go to places and meet people and love people where they are. Got a message earlier today about someone sharing how a former person, a lead singer of a Christian music band, how he doesn't believe in God anymore. And the truth is, what this person said to me in their message is, I see a younger generation rising up, not taking what people just tell them about the Bible to be true. And the truth is, he's right. They're not going to believe the Bible's true because we tell them it's true. The Bible is a nuanced book. It's thick. It's big. It doesn't make sense to read it from front to back. It doesn't work that way. But if we don't have a depth to our faith, if we don't spend time in silence and solitude and have a depth to our spiritual life, we can't pass anything on to the next generation. We have nothing to pass but words on a page. But Jesus says, again and again, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Are you and I willing to labor in the silence and the solitude to grow to places of spiritual depth? To take the other practices and put them into place, to study, to work, to listen? Or are we going to choose a simple faith? And let me rephrase that, a simplistic faith. I think faith is ultimately kind of simple. It's just trusting and following after Jesus, but we can make it so simplistic that it loses its power. We say things like, just read the Bible, it's true, that's all you need. The truth is, there's a generation coming up, and if that's what we do, they're going to find themselves wandering far from God. But maybe if you and I take seriously the words of Jesus, if we spend time in solitude, if we begin to wrestle with the depth of the scriptures, if we begin to take seriously this call to understand culture of that day, the nuances of the faith, then maybe we'll have something of value to pass on to the next generation. Then maybe, just maybe, we'll read more and more stories of people who had their lives turned upside down because they've encountered Jesus, who is the living Word, and offers us hope that we can see a new world. And we'll be more excited about what the next generation is doing for the church than any previous generation. Because that's my dream, is to pass off something greater to the next generation. And if it's not your dream, I would challenge you to question this. Do you walk through and see people and have compassion? Or do we see the world with our own eyes? But solitude invites us to begin to see the world as Jesus sees the world. So may we rest in solitude and silence this week. And don't worry, next week brings a new practice. I can't promise it's going to be easier, but it'll probably be more noise. And hopefully we'll see you then.